After I retired, I bought a little house by the beach. All my life I had saved for this, the smell of salt air, the sound of waves rolling in and fading out like a great sleeping animal, sunrises painted in colors no camera could ever quite capture. 43 years turning wrenches in a cramped garage, breathing in oil and exhaust, listening to complaints about squeaky brakes, misfiring engines, and the urgent crises of people who always needed their car fixed by tomorrow. Every paycheck I put a little aside. Every bonus, every overtime shift, even when my back ached and my hands were too tired to grip a fork, went into the account labeled Dream. And then, finally, I got it. A modest place, nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, weathered blue siding, peeling just enough to give it character. A porch that faced the water like it had been waiting for me. The real estate agent called it a fixer-upper with potential, which is realtor language for, hope you know how to use a hammer. I called it paradise. Margaret loved it too. She'd sit on the porch every morning with her coffee, black, 1 sugar, watching the gulls argue over scraps in the sand, the same way lawyers argued in her old office, only louder and with more feathers. We'd walk the beach at sunset, our shoes dangling from our hands, collecting shells with no particular purpose. After all those years of her typing legal documents and me crawling under cars, we'd finally earned something quiet, something ours. 6 months. That's how long we had before the phone rang. "Dad, hey!" Austin's voice had that forced enthusiasm, the kind that always showed up right before a favor request. "How's the beach house treating you?" "Fine, son. Real fine." That's great. Listen, I've got a situation." Of course he did. "Claire's parents want to visit the area for a month, maybe 6 weeks. Hotels are insane right now. Price gouging, you wouldn't believe it. And I thought, well, Claire thought, maybe they could stay at your place, just temporarily." Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I looked at Margaret across the kitchen table. She didn't say a word, but her eyebrows spoke fluent warning. "Your place is small, Austin," I said. "Where would we go?" "Oh, come on, Dad. You've got that whole house. They're very low maintenance. You won't even know they're there." I almost laughed. That line always means the exact opposite. "Why don't you and Claire stay with them too?" I said. "Make it a family thing." "Well, yeah, actually, we were planning to visit too. Keep them company, show them around." "So, all 4 of them, in my house, for 6 weeks. Margaret was shaking her head now, mouthing the word no like it was a prayer. But Austin was my son, 38 years old, still acting like the universe ran on good intentions and other people's effort. Maybe that was on me. Maybe I'd made things too easy for him, fixed too many of his problems with a wrench and a smile. "All right, son." "Really? Dad, that's amazing. Claire will be so happy. Her parents are wonderful people. You'll love them." When someone tells you you'll love them before you've even met them, it usually means the opposite. "When are they coming?" I asked. "Next weekend? Is that okay?" "Next weekend. 6 days to prepare." "That's fine," I said. "We'll make arrangements." After I hung up, Margaret looked at me like I'd volunteered to host a circus. "Henry, what are you thinking?" "I'm thinking our son needs to learn some respect." "And how exactly are you planning to teach him?" I smiled. "You know that storage unit we've been meaning to clean out? The one with all my old tools and equipment from the shop? The one you refuse to let me organize? That's the one. I think it's time we put some of those things to use." Margaret studied me for a long moment. Then, slowly, that familiar spark lit in her eyes. After 40 years of marriage, she knew exactly what I was planning. Not the details, but the spirit of it. "How much time do we need?" she asked. 5 days should do it. Maybe 6. "Then we'd better get started." That night, I lay in bed listening to the waves. The moonlight came through the window, painting the ceiling in silver brushstrokes. Margaret was already asleep beside me, breathing softly, one hand resting on my arm like an anchor. Tomorrow, the work would begin. Plans, tools, lumber, maybe a few harmless surprises. But tonight, I let myself enjoy the calm, the peace, the sound of the ocean. I'd waited my whole life to hear without the smell of gasoline in my hair. Because soon, very soon, that peace was going to get loud, and this time, I wasn't the one who'd be losing sleep. The storage unit smelled like 30 years of motor oil, sawdust, and the kind of sweat that never really leaves metal. Margaret stood in the doorway, arms folded, hands on her hips, looking at the chaos like it personally offended her sense of order. "This is your plan?" she asked. "Somewhere in this mess?" Not somewhere, I said, stepping over a stack of old car manuals. Everywhere. I dragged out my old red toolbox, the same one that survived 3 shops, 2 hurricanes, and one apprentice who thought a torquey wrench was just a fancy hammer. The corner was still dented from the day I dropped it off a lift in '98. When it hit the floor, I'd sworn loud enough to startle the guy in the office next door. Funny the things you remember. Inside was a treasure chest of my past life. Wire cutters, fishing line, spare circuits, tiny motors, pressure sensors the size of bottle caps. Tools collected not because I needed them, but because I might one day, and now one day was here. First things first, I said. We need to map the house. Back at the beach house, we spread graph paper across the kitchen table like generals planning a quiet war. Margaret handed me a ruler. I drew out every room, every doorway, every window. We marked furniture placement, shadow angles, natural walking paths even a polite guest wouldn't avoid. The guest bedroom, I said, tapping the square. Austin and Claire go here. Her parents get the other one. What about the bathroom? Margaret asked. They'll all share it. Exactly, I said. High traffic. Maximum opportunity. Margaret gave me that slow, dangerous smile. 30 years in a law office taught her how people unravel, how pressure doesn't need to be loud, just constant. Where I understood mechanics, she understood minds. They'll use the kitchen constantly, she said. Coffee, snacks, Austin pretending he's helping but just getting in the way. Then the kitchen is our opening move. For the next 3 days, I worked like a younger version of myself had climbed back into my bones. Fishing line strung at ankle height, nearly invisible unless the light hit it just right. Cabinet doors hooked to tiny motors that would open a few inches when someone stepped on a pressure plate hidden under the kitchen rug. A light tap, a quiet hum, just enough movement to question reality. Nothing harmful, nothing illegal, just persistent. Margaret handled the mind games. She shifted furniture an inch, then another inch. Straightened pictures so they almost looked level. Replaced the salt shaker with one identical in every way, except it was a quarter full, not half. Every change tiny. Every change wrong. It's about cognitive dissonance, she said. The brain notices what the eyes don't want to admit. It'll bother them, even if they can't explain why. Remind me to never make you mad, I said. Oh, Henry, she replied, patting my arm. You've already learned that lesson. The bathroom got special treatment. I installed a slow leak valve on the hot water line, one I could control from the basement. Water temperature would swing at random, just enough to make showers educational. Then I placed a small speaker behind the vent, hidden behind the drywall. It would whisper every now and then, just on the edge of hearing, not words, just sound. Won't they look? Margaret asked. Sure, I said. Let them. Won't find a thing. In the bedrooms, I added pressure sensors under the mattresses. Not enough to wake them, just enough to trigger faint creaks in the walls, like a house settling when it shouldn't. Human minds can ignore a loud noise, but a quiet, irregular one, that sticks. Outside, I loosened a few porch boards. Only in specific places. Not enough to break, just enough to groan under weight like the house was complaining. Hung a wind chime where the ocean breeze always hit hardest between 3 and 4 a.m. Not earlier, not later. Exactly when a restless sleeper starts wondering if they're being watched. Margaret took charge of the lighting. Smart bulbs in every lamp, every fixture. Her phone became the switchboard of God. A flicker here, a dim there. Not a full blackout, just old house quirks amplified. What about the doors? She said. What about them? You're thinking wires and gears. People don't trust doors. Make them swing just a little, stick just a little, creak at the wrong time. She adjusted hinges, swapped weather stripping, placed door stops just off-center. I watched, impressed. You're an artist, I said. No, she replied. Artists want beauty. I want discomfort. By day 5, the house looked untouched. Clean, cozy, absolutely normal. But it was a maze of nerves and tension. A perfectly staged stage, just waiting for actors. I stood in the living room and listened. The house was quiet, but not still. It was ready. Margaret came beside me, arms crossed. Second thoughts? She asked. No, just checking the board. We didn't miss anything, she said. Trust me. That night, we ran a full simulation. Walked through the house like guests. The fishing line caught my ankle. The cabinet door eased open on its own. The whisper vent made the hair on my arms stand up. Margaret dimmed the lights from her phone. The room sank halfway into shadow. They're going to think this place is haunted, she said. I shook my head. No, they're going to think they're haunted. Saturday morning, my phone buzzed. Austin. On our way. Should be there by 2. I showed Margaret. She didn't smile, exactly, just approved. Time to play host, she said. Time, I corrected, to make the first move. We spent the morning dressing the stage. Fresh sheets, full fridge, a friendly little welcome note on the counter. Everything looked perfect. Everything was ready. They arrived at 2:15, 15 minutes late. Not enough to apologize for, just enough to signal that their time mattered more than ours. Austin's silver SUV rolled into the driveway with the kind of bass-heavy music that announces itself before the driver does. The ocean was doing its slow, eternal breathing behind us, but the moment the engine cut off, peace evaporated. The show had begun. The doors opened in sequence, like a staged entrance. Claire got out first. Designer sunglasses, yoga pants that probably had a brand name, Starbucks cup held like a prop. She didn't look at the house, the ocean, the porch. Nothing. Her eyes stayed glued to her phone, thumb moving like she was being paid for every scroll. Probably was, in a way. People like her live on attention. Theirs or someone else's. Doesn't matter. Austin came around next, grinning like a politician, polo shirt the color of money, hair slicked back like he'd spent more time styling it than packing. Dad, he called, arms wide. There it is, the famous beach house. Famous, sure, among the 4 people who ever cared. The back doors opened. Out stepped the in-laws, Gerald and Patricia Morton, the kind of couple who probably described themselves as old-fashioned but traveled with monogrammed luggage. Gerald was tall, silver-haired, the kind of man who shook hands like it was a competitive sport. Patricia looked like she'd been laminated, hair too perfect, face too still, jewelry catching the sun like she wanted the neighbors to know they weren't dealing with commoners. Margaret squeezed my hand. The signal. Curtains up. Welcome, welcome, I said, walking down the porch steps, voice a shade warmer than necessary. How was the drive? Traffic was horrible, Claire answered without looking up, like she was reporting on a tragedy she had personally endured. I said we should leave at noon, Austin muttered, and I said, well, Margaret cut in, because she is a master at stopping stupid conversations before they gain momentum. You're here now. Let's get you settled. Gerald stuck out his hand. Firm grip, too firm. Man who needs to feel like he's winning even in greetings. Henry, Gerald Morton. This is my wife, Patricia. Patricia looked the house up and down the way a surgeon might inspect a wound before deciding whether to stitch it or complain about the stitching. What a quaint place. There it was, the word quaint. Code for small, simple, beneath expectations. It's perfect for us, I said. Come on in. The tour lasted 15 minutes. That's all it takes when you don't live in a mansion. 2 bedrooms, Austin and Claire in one, Gerald and Patricia in the other. 1 bathroom, 1 kitchen, living room, porch, no sauna, no media room, no wine cellar. Just a normal house for normal people. So we all share the 1 bathroom? Patricia asked, like I'd just informed her we would all be bathing in a bucket. It's got a good shower, I said. Water pressure's solid. Claire finally looked away from her phone. Is there Wi-Fi? Password's on the fridge. What about the bedroom? Austin asked. You got blackout curtains? Claire needs total darkness to sleep. Regular curtains, I said. They work like curtains do. Claire made a note on her phone, probably typing something like staying in a 1950s cabin. No blackout curtains. Send prayers. Then the luggage came in. 6 suitcases, 3 duffel bags, 1 cooler, and a portable wine rack that made me question every life choice that led me to this moment. How long did you say you were staying? Margaret asked, knowing the answer but forcing them to say it out loud. 6 weeks, Gerald said. Maybe 2 months. Depends how we like it. Depends how they like our house. Incredible. By 4 p.m., they had colonized the place. Austin's laptop on the kitchen table, my kitchen table. Claire's makeup spread across the bathroom counter like a makeup store had exploded. Gerald's shoes by the front door, as if he were the owner. Patricia's magazine stacked on top of my National Geographics. Margaret and I retreated to the porch like exiled royalty. They didn't even ask where we'd be sleeping, she whispered, because they don't care. The master bedroom is still ours, right? For now, I said. Let's see how long before someone suggests we give it up. Inside, I heard cabinets opening. Fridge door, the distinct sound of someone judging our grocery choices. Claire's voice drifted out the window. Austin, this Wi-Fi's terrible. Can your dad upgrade it? I'll ask him, Austin said. Not we'll ask him. Not is it possible. Just, he'll do it. Margaret stiffened beside me. Easy, I said. Save it. At 6, they got hungry. Didn't ask if we had dinner plans. Didn't offer to cook. Just announced they were ordering pizza. We'll need about $60 from you guys, Austin said, already tapping in the order. $60. For pizza? And wings. And breadsticks. And drinks. Come on, Dad, don't be cheap. I handed him 3 20s. He took them like it was tribute. Dinner was a performance, talking over each other, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. Gerald explained real estate like no one had ever heard of buying property. Patricia complained about her neighbor's hydrangeas. Claire refreshed her phone every minute like the world might end if she missed a notification. Austin barely looked at us. At 9, Margaret and I said goodnight. They didn't even pause the conversation. In our bedroom, the one safe place left, we listened. Laughter, TV too loud, cabinet doors, glasses clinking. They're in our liquor, Margaret said. I know. Without asking. I know. She turned to me in the dim light. When? Tomorrow night, I said. Let them settle first. Let them think this is their territory. And then? And then they remember it isn't. I pulled out my phone, opened the app. The house schematic glowed like a quiet promise. Sensors, pressure plates, sound triggers, lighting controls, all dormant, all waiting. Tomorrow, I said. One more night of peace. Margaret smiled, the smile of a woman sharpening knives in her mind. I can't wait. Neither could I. Sunday morning started at 6 a.m., not with birdsong or waves, but with Gerald's alarm, a shrill, nasal electronic screech loud enough to wake anyone and make them roll over again. It blared through the thin bedroom walls for a full 5 minutes before he finally silenced it. Then came the stomping, heavy, unself-conscious, like a man who had never in his life considered the existence of floors or people trying to sleep beneath them. Then water. The bathroom pipes screamed to life, the shower roaring like it was trying to wash the entire Atlantic off him. And underneath it all, the sound of Gerald humming, painfully off-key, some tune that sounded like a funeral dirge played on a kazoo. Margaret groaned next to me. We're guests in our own house. Not for long, I said, already planning every step ahead. By the time we came out, the kitchen looked like a crime scene. Coffee grounds smeared across the counter, spoons sticky with something sugary, the sink full of dishes despite the dishwasher being 2 feet away. Someone had used the last of the milk but thoughtfully returned the empty carton to the fridge like it was a decorative item. Claire sat at the table in a silk robe the color of champagne, legs crossed, phone in hand, scrolling like the fate of the world depended on her interaction rate. Oh, hey, she said without looking up. Do you have almond milk? No, I said. Could you get some? Regular milk makes me bloated. I'll add it to the list, I replied. The imaginary list, the one titled, Things I Will Never Buy for You. Austin walked in mid-phone call, earbuds in, already pacing. He grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl, took one bite, then put it back like a toddler testing textures. Then he walked straight onto the porch, voice raised, explaining server load issues as if the ocean cared. Patricia entered next. Fully dressed, hair set, jewelry on, lipstick perfect. It was 6:45 a.m. Henry, she said, tone already scolding. The shower temperature is inconsistent. One moment boiling, the next freezing. You'll need to call a plumber. I'll take a look at it, I said. Soon, I hope. Gerald has sensitive skin. Margaret caught my eye. I gave the smallest shake of my head. Not yet. The day got longer by the hour. They left every light on. Every room looked like a staged hostage video. Gerald kept adjusting the thermostat lower and lower, like we were storing frozen meat. Patricia reorganized our kitchen cabinets to make more sense, which meant nothing was where we left it. Claire spent an hour in the bathroom doing her makeup, holding the house hostage because natural lighting matters for content. Meanwhile, 3 adults waited outside the door like peasants waiting to use the village well. Austin took up the entire dining table with his laptop and chargers and notebooks, snapping, Could you keep it down? I'm on a client call, to Margaret, who was running the dishwasher. Lunch happened, not for us. They ordered Thai food, expensive Thai food, ate every bite, didn't ask if we wanted any, left the containers stacked on the counter like an art installation titled Entitlement. By evening I could feel the pressure inside Margaret like heat behind a sealed door. Her movements were slow, deliberate, the way a person moves when the only thing keeping them from homicide is dignity. We cooked our own dinner, fish and vegetables. They watched us the way zoo visitors watch the animals being fed, curious, detached, vaguely amused, no offer to help, no smells good, just observation. When the dishes were done and the house settled into the evening lull, I slipped into the basement. Time to wake the house. The control panel was hidden behind the old water heater, disguised as a breaker box. I flipped the switches one by one. Red lights turned green, systems armed, sensors live, timers set. Margaret came down quietly. Ready? Almost. Tonight's just the test run. We start small. What's first? The bathroom. Gerald's evening shower is his ritual, right? Let's add some emotional enrichment. She smiled like a cat who had just been invited to supervise the canary population. We returned upstairs. I grabbed a beer, the ones I paid for, now mysteriously half gone, and sat on the porch. Margaret opened her book. We waited. Sure enough, at 8:50 p.m. I'm going to shower before bed, Gerald announced. Of course he was. Bathroom door closed, water on. I opened the app, found the hot water valve option. Waited 30 seconds. Tap. Inside. Jesus Christ! I raised it again. 15 seconds later, dropped it back. What the... Patricia's voice floated down the hallway like varnished irritation. Gerald? What is happening? The water! It's freezing, then boiling, then freezing again. Just adjust the handle. I am adjusting it. Margaret sipped her tea like a queen watching peasants argue about fire. When he finally emerged, Gerald was red-faced, limping slightly, wrapped in a towel like a wounded emperor. He stormed to the living room. Henry, your plumbing is broken. I put on my best concerned but calm expression. Really? That's strange. I used it this morning. Worked fine. Well, it's not fine now. I'll check it tomorrow. Might be a water heater thing. He stomped off, muttering about cheap DIY nonsense, and we should have stayed at the Marriott. Austin came out next. Dad, seriously, you need to deal with this. What if Claire had been in there? I'll take care of it. Tomorrow. He shook his head like I'd failed a test I didn't know I was taking. Margaret waited until he was gone, her voice barely above a whisper. Phase 1? Phase 1? And Phase 2? You'll hear it around 3 a.m. We went to bed at 11. The house finally quieted. I set my alarm for 2:45. At 2:46, I opened the app. Wind chime system, on. Outside Austin and Claire's window, the chimes began their gentle, chiming lullaby. Then the breeze picked up. The tune turned irregular. Not loud, just wrong. 3 minutes later. Austin! Austin! What is that noise? What noise? That ringing, outside. I don't hear anything. Go back to sleep. I can't sleep with that ringing. I nudged the frequency higher. The chime clattered like a ghost with opinions. Footsteps, front door opening. Austin stepped out onto the porch, half asleep, staring up at the chime he couldn't reach. It's just a wind chime, he called inside. Then take it down. I can't. Then do something. He came back inside. The chime sang on. For 2 hours. Not constant, just insistent. Enough to break the brain in half-inch increments. At 5 a.m., I shut it off. At 6 a.m., Gerald's alarm. Day 2 had begun. Monday morning, they looked like they'd been in a fistfight with the night and lost badly. Claire had dark half-moons under her eyes, the kind you can't fix with concealer or positive affirmations. Austin shuffled into the kitchen like gravity had increased overnight. Even Gerald, the human foghorn, moved with the energy level of a winded Labrador. Nobody slept well, Patricia announced, like she was delivering the results of a medical study. Sorry to hear that, Margaret said, all sugar and sunshine. We slept great. Claire sent her a sharp, icy look while sipping from her mug. Breakfast was educational. They moved around the kitchen like malfunctioning robots, slamming drawers, muttering under their breath, annoyed at everything except their own behavior. Austin burnt his toast, blamed the toaster. Gerald spilled his coffee, blamed the mug. Claire tasted the cereal, blamed the universe. I sat at the table, reading the newspaper like the picture of retirement piece. Every now and then, I let out a quiet, sympathetic-sounding, That wind chime kept me up all night, Claire said, rubbing her forehead. Austin, you need to take it down. I told you, I can't reach it. Then ask your father to do it. Austin looked at me, jaw tight. Dad, can you take down the wind chime? Which one? The one outside our window. Oh, I said, as if this were brand new information. That one, sure, I can do that today. When today? He pressed. When I get a chance. Got some errands this morning. He stared at me like I'd just refused to donate a kidney. Seriously? What? No, nothing. Never mind. At 9 a.m., Margaret and I left. We said we were going into town. Which was true. We just weren't going for errands. We went for breakfast at a little cafe with outdoor seating, drank good coffee, read real menus, not glowing screens. Then we browsed shops, held hands, laughed. Normal life. Meanwhile, they were home with the house. And the house was awake. We'd programmed the kitchen cabinets to open themselves, triggered about 30 seconds after someone stepped on the pressure mats under the rugs. Just long enough to feel impossible. I could imagine it like a movie. Claire walks in, opens a cabinet, gets a mug, closes the door, walks away. Click. The door opens behind her. She freezes, turns around. Door open. Empty kitchen. She closes it again, slower this time, walks out of the room. Click. Around 11 a.m., my phone buzzed. Austin. Dad, something's wrong with the kitchen cabinets. They keep opening on their own, I replied. Probably the hinges. I'll check them when I'm back. When will that be? Couple hours. I could feel the irritation through the screen. When we finally walked in around 1 p.m., the whole house felt off. Not messy, tense, like the walls were listening. They were all in the living room, sitting stiff like airline passengers during turbulence. About time, Gerald said. Your house is falling apart. What's the problem? I asked, tone of perfect concern. The cabinets, Patricia said, and the lights. They keep flickering. Probably just old wiring, I said. I'll take a look. I went downstairs, rattled a few tools, flipped one reel breaker for dramatic effect, then came back up wiping my hands like I'd done something important. Looks fine. Might just be grid fluctuations. Happens in coastal towns. Can you call an electrician? Patricia asked. Sure, I said. Might take a few days. Tourist season. Everyone's booked. She looked like I told her we'd be rationing clean air. I took down the wind chime later. No need to abuse a single trick, but I activated the hallway trip line. Claire went first, head in her phone, legs gliding, reality not required. The fishing line caught her ankle. She stumbled hard, caught herself on the wall, whipping her head around like the house had shoved her. Nothing there, just clean floor. Austin tripped an hour later. Same disbelief, same confusion. Austin! Claire snapped from the bathroom. Why'd you move something in the hall? I didn't move anything. Then what did I trip over? I don't know. Maybe your own feet. You're impossible. You're dramatic. Their voices bounced around the house like a tennis match. Music to my ears. Around sunset, the smart lights kicked in. Not full blackouts. That would be too obvious. Just flickers. Soft, gentle dips in brightness, like the house was breathing in the dark. Henry, the lights again, Patricia complained. I see it, I said. Electrician tomorrow. You said that this morning. I'll call first thing, I lied politely. That night, when they crawled off to bed, Margaret and I exchanged a glance. Time for the bedrooms. The pressure sensors under the mattresses activated, sending tiny, uneven vibrations to the wall servos. Just enough to make the house creak like it was shifting weight it didn't have. At 3 a.m. Austin, Claire hissed. Did you hear that? No. Yes, you did. That creaking. It sounded like someone was inside the wall. It's an old house. They do that. No, houses don't creak like they're alive, Austin. Meanwhile, Gerald and Patricia had their own haunted soundtrack. The walls are moving, Patricia whispered. No, they aren't, Gerald said, trying to sound confident. Another creak. Okay, maybe they're moving a little. But they couldn't find a source, because there wasn't one. By morning, they looked like people who had survived a haunting but didn't want to admit it. We weren't tormenting them, not yet. We were just softening the ground, and we had weeks to go. Tuesday arrived heavy, like the air itself knew what was coming. The sky was clear, the ocean calm, but inside the house the atmosphere felt thick, the kind of silence that isn't peace, but anticipation. They looked like people who'd slept in a war zone, which in a way they had. Breakfast wasn't a meal. It was a slow, uneasy shuffle of bodies avoiding eye contact. No greetings, no small talk. Just the sound of utensils scraping plates and the quiet, haunted alertness of prey animals who aren't sure where the hunter is. No one reached for the coffee pot without watching it first. No one opened a cabinet without standing back, like it might lash out. Every sound made Claire jerk her head. Every light flicker made Patricia inhale sharply. Gerald stared at the room like someone had rearranged reality and forgotten to warn him. Austin cornered me on the porch after breakfast. His voice was low, the voice of a man who wants to sound rational but is losing the thread. Dad, we need to talk. What's up? Something's wrong with this house. Wrong how? He looked out at the water, jaw tight, trying to find the right words. But that was the problem. Nothing looked wrong. Nothing proved anything. Just enough to make a man doubt his sanity. I don't know how to explain it, he finally said. Things feel off. Not like a normal house. Doors opening on their own. Sounds at night. Claire can't sleep. None of us can. Old houses make noise, son. Wind, pipes, wood expansion. You'll get used to it. It's not just noise, he snapped. Things are happening that don't make sense. Like what? And there it was. The trap. Because he couldn't say it without sounding ridiculous. The cabinets open by themselves. The shadows look wrong. I tripped over something that wasn't there. I hear footsteps in the walls. All explainable, all deniable, all crazy sounding. He rubbed his face. Just keep an eye on things, okay? I nodded sympathetically. Always do. He walked back inside, wearing the expression of someone who's starting to suspect the enemy isn't outside. It's in the walls, the wiring, the shadows, or maybe in their own minds. Margaret was watching through the kitchen window when I came in. He's starting to crack, she said, voice calm, almost clinical. Good, I said. Let's help him along. We went for a walk on the beach that afternoon. Left them alone, left the systems active, let the house speak. And it did. The cabinets didn't just open. They opened in sequence, like the house was breathing. The kitchen, then the bathroom, then the hall. Slow, patient, methodical. The lights dimmed just enough to make the world look older, tired, wrong. And the temperature dropped exactly 2 degrees an hour, so no one could point to a sudden change, only a creeping one. When we got back, they were gathered in the living room like survivors of a shipwreck, tense, pale, whispering. The house is doing it again, Claire said the moment she saw us. Her voice was too loud, too tight. Her phone was already recording, aimed at the kitchen. I'm documenting everything. My followers will want to see this. Austin scoffed. Your followers need to see you having a paranoid breakdown? I'm not paranoid. You see it too? I see an old house with old problems. This isn't normal. Doors don't just open. Gerald, who had been trying to maintain some dignity through all this, stepped in like he was chairing a crisis meeting. Perhaps we should consider alternative accommodations, he said stiffly. Henry, do you know of any hotels? Everything's booked, I said. Peak season. Closest vacancies are 50 miles inland. His shoulders sank. A man forced to choose between fear and inconvenience? And losing. Besides, I added, I can fix these issues. Just need a little time. How much time? Patricia asked, voice brittle. Few days. Week at most. Patricia looked like she was calculating whether murder was worth the jail time. But they stayed. Of course they stayed. People like them never leave until they believe they're in control again. We didn't let that happen. That evening, Phase 2 began. Psychological displacement. Not horror, not damage, just wrongness. While they watched TV, Margaret and I made subtle changes. Chairs angled 2 inches differently, lamp rotated not quite facing the same direction, framed photo shifted slightly off-level, a book moved 1 space on a shelf, not enough to notice immediately, enough to bother the brain later. Claire noticed first. She stared at the wall like she was trying to solve a crime scene. Austin, didn't that picture used to be centered? Austin barely glanced. I don't know. Probably. It looks wrong. Everything looks wrong to you right now. She glared, but went back to staring, because she knew it was wrong. She just couldn't prove it. Gerald walked into the kitchen next, froze mid-step. Patricia, did you move something in here? No. Something's different. What? I don't know. I just feel it. That was the point. Logic collapses when the world stops behaving like it's supposed to. Night brought the next layer. Footsteps, not loud, not horror movie stomping, just soft, slow, wandering footsteps, recorded from my own walking pattern in the hallway, played through speakers hidden in wall vents. At 2:14 a.m., Claire sat bolt upright. Austin, someone's in the house. What? Listen. Soft footsteps. Paused somewhere in the hall. Moved again. Austin got up, annoyed, grabbed his phone flashlight, opened the bedroom door. Nothing. Empty hallway, silent house, no intruder. See? He said. No one's here. But when they lay back down, footsteps again. Slower this time. Closer. Across the hall, Patricia whispered, Gerald, someone is walking. For God's sake, Patricia, it's just the house. The house doesn't walk. But she was wrong. This one did. By Wednesday morning, they were frayed down to threads. Claire called her mother in tears. Austin snapped at everyone like anger was oxygen. Gerald demanded, I address the structural issues immediately. Patricia started drinking before noon. Holding the wine like medicine, Margaret and I watched from the porch, coffee in hand, peaceful as the tide. This is cruel, she said softly. So is being treated like we're staff in our own home. I know, she said. I'm not complaining, just observing. You want to stop? I asked. She looked through the window at the four intruders. Tired, jumpy, turning on each other like trapped animals. Her smile was shark slow. Not even close. Good, I said, because tomorrow we stop being subtle. Wednesday afternoon arrived with the kind of uneasy quiet that meant nobody trusted the house anymore. Even the air inside felt different. Heavy, suspicious, like it was waiting. Austin finally snapped. We're taking control of this situation, he announced, voice sharp, shoulders squared. Not panic this time. Strategy. A man trying to regain dominance over something he doesn't understand. He brought Claire, Gerald, and Patricia into the living room like he was running a crisis briefing instead of a family meeting. Margaret and I were on the porch with our books, but we didn't have to strain to hear. Their voices carried. Stress makes people louder. My father isn't fixing these problems, Austin said, so we're going to figure out what's going on ourselves. Not Dad isn't fixing them. My father, distance, blame, control attempt. How? Claire asked, arms folded, knee bouncing, hair perfect, composure gone. Logic, Austin said. Systematic elimination. We'll check every room, every system, every possible cause. One by one. Gerald nodded, relieved to have a plan. Smart. Methodical. We'll identify the source. Because men like him need the world to make sense. Uncertainty feels like weakness. We start with the electrical, Austin continued. Dad said the breaker box is in the basement. Patricia frowned. And if it's not electrical, then we move to plumbing, then structural. We eliminate possibilities until something makes sense. That was the problem. Nothing was going to make sense. They went downstairs in a little cluster, not one of them willing to be alone in a room anymore. I watched through the window, concealed by the curtain. Austin opened the real breaker box, the harmless one, and stared inside. Looks normal, he said. Check the wires, Gerald suggested, crouching beside him. Austin traced every visible line, tugged gently, tested screws, tapped metal like it would confess. Nothing wrong, because there was nothing there to find. They came back up the stairs, defeated but stubborn. Okay, Austin said, pacing now. Electrical's fine. Next, plumbing. Gerald took charge like a man who believed in tools and problem-solving. Crawled under the sink, checked pipes, turned valves, flushed toilets, ran faucets. Everything worked perfectly. Because the sabotage wasn't mechanical, it was designed. That shower temperature is still unstable, Gerald said, wiping his hands. It's dangerous. Maybe it's the water heater, Claire suggested, tone brittle. It's new, I said casually from the hallway. Installed it 2 years ago. Then why does it keep changing? Gerald demanded. Could be mineral buildup, I said with a thoughtful nod. Sometimes the pipes get coated. It causes disruptions in temperature. Can you flush the system? Sure, takes a few days. House won't have running water until it's done. Silence. Horror. No shower, no sink, no toilet. Never mind, Gerald said quickly. We can live with it for now. Translation. I'd rather be scalded and frozen every night than be inconvenienced. Austin wasn't done. What about the sounds, the creaking, the footsteps? Old wood, I said. Temperature changes. Materials expand, contract. It sounds like a person walking, Austin said flatly. Pipes can sound like footsteps. And the doors opening by themselves? Air pressure, I said, shrugging. Cross breeze, physics. For every nightmare, I gave them logic. Not satisfying answers, no, just plausible ones. And plausible is worse than impossible. Because plausible means, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm imagining this. Maybe I'm losing it. Austin watched me carefully, not just listening, evaluating. Dad, he said finally, are you messing with us? I didn't even blink. What? Why would I do that? I don't know, he said, eyes narrowing. But something feels off about all this. Son, you're tired, I said, voice gentle, full of fatherly concern I didn't feel. You're stressed. None of you are sleeping. Your minds are filling in gaps. My mind isn't... Maybe, I added kindly. You should all go into town for the day. Get a break, clear your heads, let the house settle a bit. They didn't want to admit it, but they needed the idea, needed the escape. So they left. Gerald's rental car. 4 stressed, sleepless people who thought fresh air might save them. The moment the car left the drive, Margaret turned to me. Ready? Always, I said. We went inside, not to destroy, to disturb. We moved things by inches. Rotated a nightstand 90 degrees, reversed the orientation of a throw pillow, swapped 2 towels for the same towels in a slightly different shade. Took Claire's shampoo, emptied half, placed it back exactly where it was moved. Austin's charger into a different laptop bag pocket, shifted Gerald's shoes 3 inches to the left. Tiny surgical strikes on certainty. Things too small to prove, but impossible to ignore. They're going to think they're losing their minds, Margaret said, watching me switch toothbrush positions in the holder. That's the point. How long do we keep going? Until they either break, I said, or leave. And if they confront you? I smiled. With what? A crooked picture? A half bottle of shampoo? We sat back on the porch, opened our books, peaceful, waiting. They returned at dusk, calmer at first. Sunlight and lunch had given them a temporary illusion of normalcy. That lasted 20 minutes. Then, Claire. Austin, did you use my shampoo? Austin, why would I use your shampoo? It was full this morning. Now it's half. Then you used... I know how much I use. Gerald. Patricia, why did you move the nightstand? Patricia. I didn't move the nightstand. It was by the window. Now it's by the door. I didn't touch it. Austin, where is my charger? I swear it was in the side pocket. A minute later. What? How did it end up here? I never put it here. One by one, they discovered their worlds had been violated. Not wrecked, just altered, which is infinitely worse. They gathered in the living room like suspects in a mystery where all of them were victims, and none of them could trust reality. Did anyone go into anyone's room today? Austin asked. 4 heads shook. Then silence, the kind filled with invisible accusations. From the porch, I called casually, Everything okay in there? Fine, Austin yelled back. Too fast, too tight. Everything's fine. But it wasn't. And now they couldn't blame ghosts. They had to blame each other, which meant the house wasn't just haunted. It was turning them against themselves. Thursday arrived with rain that didn't fall so much as hold the house. Steady and relentless, drumming on the roof like fingers on a table. The sky pressed low. Windows fogged and stayed that way. The porch lost its light. The water beyond it went slate gray. Inside, the rooms shrank. The air thickened. Everyone moved like the house had fewer exits than yesterday. Breakfast wasn't a conversation. It was choreography. They slid past each other in the tight kitchen with the wary grace of strangers sharing a narrow sidewalk. Eyes mostly down, hands slower than necessary. The quiet was louder than any of our tricks. Paranoia has a temperature. You can feel it coming off people. Claire radiated heat. She clutched her phone like a flotation device, filming everything. The counter, the cabinet doors, closed, the hallway, empty, the light fixtures, behaving. Whispered narration, documenting the strange things happening in the beach house. She sounded like a tour guide in a haunted museum where all the exhibits had just stepped out for a cigarette. My followers are freaking out, she said. They think the house might be haunted. Or you might be dramatic, Austin muttered without looking up. Excuse me? Nothing. No, say it. Say what you really think. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. I think we're all stressed and seeing patterns that aren't there. Patterns? Austin, my shampoo disappeared. The furniture moves. The walls make sounds. Old house. How many times do we have to... Gerald tried to staple the moment together. Fighting won't help. We need to stay rational. I am rational, Claire snapped, stepping back like she'd been shoved. You're all gaslighting me. Patricia let out a short, mean laugh. Oh, we're gaslighting you? How convenient. The cracks weren't cracks anymore. They were lines on a map. I set my coffee down and decided it was time. The final system had a name in my notes. Isolation sequence. It wasn't about jump scares. It was pressure on the joints of a family. Separate the parts, make them creak. A door that locks for no reason, a room that goes dark, a conversation that turns into a ledger. Start small. Always small. Claire went to the bathroom with her phone. I watched her pass down the hall, heard the door click, gave it 3 seconds, then engaged the servo on the interior lock. Handle. Rattle. Stillness. Austin, she called, uncertainty edging in. No answer. Austin? Footsteps. What? The door's locked. So unlock it. I can't. It's locked from the outside. That's impossible. There's no lock on the outside. Then how is it locked? He tried the handle. Solid. Claire, you must have... I didn't lock it. I counted down in my head, 30, 29, 28, then released the servo. From where I stood in the living room doorway, I heard the soft click of surrender. Austin tried again. The door swung wide. Claire stood there, pale, irises too big. She didn't step out immediately. First she looked at the lock, then at Austin, then at the lock again, like it might confess. It was locked, she said. It's not locked now, he said gently, using the voice you use with frightened children and angry dogs. But it was. Maybe you just... Don't tell me I imagined it. She slid past him, stiff-shouldered, and closed their bedroom door harder than necessary. The hallway looked longer after she left. Next piece, Gerald. He'd taken to checking the basement like it owed him answers. I waited until he was 3 steps from the bottom, then put the lights out. Not a flicker, a full, cold cut. The rain's percussion took over. "Hello?" he called, voice smaller than he wanted it to be. "Henry?" I stayed quiet. He exhaled with manufactured patience and patted the wall for the switch. Click, click, click. Nothing. He started up the steps again, hand skimming the rail, careful as a man carrying an invisible glass. Just as his foot found the bottom step, I turned the lights back on. He blinked hard into the sudden ordinary. Took another step, then 2 more, as if the stairs might vanish under him. In the kitchen, he found me with a dish towel. "Your basement lights just went out," he said, clipped. "Probably the bulb," I said. "All of them?" "Could be the circuit. I'll check later." "Later." Color crept into his face. I could have fallen. "But you didn't. This house is a hazard." "It's old," I said. "Old houses have quirks." "Quirks?" His laugh had edges. "These aren't quirks. These are safety issues." "I'll get to them when I can." "When exactly will that be?" "Soon." "Soon isn't good enough." I let the quiet sit. Then maybe you should leave." The sentence hung there like a wet coat on a hook. "Are you kicking us out?" he asked, offended and hopeful at the same time. "No," I said. "I'm saying if you're unhappy, you have options." "We paid—" "You didn't pay anything," I said evenly. "This was a favor to my son." "A favor? Living in this disaster?" "No one forced you to stay." He had a lot of words and nowhere to put them. He swallowed most of them and left the rest in the air behind him as he walked away. An hour later, Austin found me on the porch. The rain had settled into a steady hush, the kind that makes the world smaller and secrets heavier. "What did you say to Gerald?" he asked. Pointed out facts. "He's talking about leaving." "Okay." "Okay? That's it?" "What do you want me to say?" I asked. "I've been accommodating. Your wife's father complains about everything. The house isn't good enough. I'm not fixing things fast enough. Maybe he should find somewhere else." This was supposed to be a family visit. "And how much family have we had?" I said, not raising my voice. "You've been on your laptop. Claire's been married to her phone. Gerald critiques. Patricia reorganizes my kitchen. No one says thank you. No one offers to help. Tell me how this is a visit and not an occupation." He opened his mouth, closed it. The rain kept speaking. "We're grateful," he said finally, softer. "Are you?" "Yes." "Then show it," I said. "Stop treating us like staff." He didn't have anywhere to go after that. He nodded a little too fast and went inside. Night fell early because the clouds decided it should. The house went quiet on purpose. No TV, no music, just doors shut with the gentle finality of people carrying grudges to bed. The rain tightened its rhythm on the roof, steady as a metronome. At midnight, I stood in the hallway, phone in hand, and brought the house to life. Lights dimmed and brightened in staggered runs like a heartbeat skipping. A door somewhere eased open, then closed, then opened again, the quiet thup of air moving through wood. Footsteps threaded the hall in uneven patterns. The temperature drop eased over everything like someone had cracked a window to the ocean and forgot. Within a minute, voices. "What's happening?" "I don't know." "Make it stop." "How?" No one said Dad. No one said Henry. They were in it together, and alone. 5 minutes. No more. The point is pressure, not panic. I shut it all down. The silence afterward had weight, a presence of absence. They drifted into the living room separately and arrived together, pale, damp with sweat, holding themselves like breakable things. Claire's phone was in her hand, but for once she didn't lift it. "We need to leave," she said. "Right now." "It's midnight," Austin said, voice frayed. Where are we going? Anywhere but here. In the rain? I don't care about the rain. He ran a hand over his face. Let's just get through tonight. We'll figure it out in the morning. They retreated down their separate corridors to their separate miseries. No one closed a door all the way. In our room, Margaret lay beside me in the dark, listening to the rain and the slow, stunned quiet of a house that had made its point. Tomorrow? She whispered. Tomorrow, I said. The end game. I put the phone face down on the nightstand. The screen went black. The rain kept its slow applause. We slept. They didn't. Friday morning arrived gray and cold. The rain had stopped, but the sky threatened more. The house felt different, charged, waiting. They emerged from their rooms slowly, exhausted, broken. No one ate breakfast. They just sat in the living room, looking at each other, looking at the walls, looking anywhere but at me. Finally, Austin spoke. Dad, we need to talk. Sure. What's on your mind? This isn't working. The house, the situation, it's too much. What's too much? All of it. The sounds, the problems, the stress. Gerald and Patricia want to leave. Claire wants to leave. I think we should all leave. Okay. He blinked, surprised by my easy agreement. Okay? If you're unhappy, you should go. I'm not going to force anyone to stay. Just like that? Just like that. Relief flooded his face, then suspicion. Why are you being so accommodating? Because I never wanted you here in the first place. The words landed like a punch. Claire gasped. Gerald leaned forward. Patricia's mouth opened. Austin stared at me. What? You heard me. I didn't want you here. You called, asked for a favor, assumed I'd say yes. I said yes because you're my son. But I never wanted this. Then why did you agree? Because that's what parents do. They say yes when their kids need something, even when it's inconvenient, even when it ruins their peace. We didn't ruin. You took over my house, Austin. Treated it like a hotel, treated me like staff. You didn't ask, you demanded. You didn't appreciate, you criticized. You turned my dream retirement into a nightmare. His face went white. That's not... We didn't mean... Didn't you? Think about it. Think about how you've acted since you got here. The expectations, the entitlement, the complete lack of respect. Claire stood up. We should go, right now. I agree, Gerald said. This is clearly not a good situation for anyone. Wait, Austin said. Dad, I didn't realize... Of course you didn't realize. You never do. You go through life assuming everyone exists to make your life easier. Well, I don't. This is my house. My retirement, my peace. And I want it back. Fine, he said, voice hard. We'll leave. But don't expect me to forget this. I don't expect anything from you anymore. They started packing immediately, throwing clothes in suitcases, grabbing toiletries, moving with angry, jerky motions. But I wasn't done. As they packed, I activated one final sequence. The master plan. Every door in the house locked simultaneously. Bedroom doors, bathroom door, front door, back door, all sealed with remote-controlled servos. Claire tried her bedroom door. It won't open. What? Austin tried. Locked. He went to the front door. Locked. Back door. Locked. Dad? Dad! The doors are locked. I sat in the kitchen, calm. I know. Unlock them. Not yet. What do you mean, not yet? I mean, we're going to have a conversation first, and you're going to listen. His face went purple. You can't lock us in here. I just did. Gerald tried to force the front door. It held solid. I'd reinforced the lock specifically for this. Henry, this is illegal. You're holding us hostage. Am I? Or am I just a confused old man whose doors seem to have jammed? This isn't funny. I'm not laughing. Austin pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Tell them my doors are stuck. See how seriously they take it. Meanwhile, you'll wait for them to arrive, which could be hours. Or you could sit down and listen to what I have to say. They looked at each other, trapped, literally trapped. Slowly they sat. Good, I said. Now, let me tell you about the last week. Let me tell you about every single thing you've done wrong. Every assumption, every disrespect, every moment you treated me like I was invisible. For the next hour, I detailed it all. Every slight, every eye roll, every time they acted like they owned the place, every time they expected me to fix something, get something, do something without a please or thank you. They listened because they had no choice. Claire cried, Gerald argued, Patricia defended, Austin just sat there getting smaller. When I finished, silence filled the room. Now, I said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave, you're going to go back to your lives, and you're never going to treat anyone's home like this again. You're never going to assume that just because someone is family, they're obligated to sacrifice their peace for your convenience. Do you understand? Nods. Slow, reluctant nods. I can't hear you. Yes, Austin whispered. Yes, Claire echoed. We understand, Gerald said. Good. I pulled out my phone, unlocked the doors. They sat there for a moment, stunned that it was that simple. Then they scrambled, grabbed their bags, rushed for the exit like the house was on fire. Within 10 minutes, they were loaded up. The SUV and rental car packed to capacity. Austin paused at the driver's door, looked back at me standing on the porch. Dad, Drive safe, son. He opened his mouth, closed it, got in the car. The engine started. They backed out of the driveway, and they were gone. I stood on the porch, watching their taillights disappear down the road. The sound of their engines faded. The sound of the ocean returned. Margaret came up beside me, slipping her hand into mine. That was quite a performance, she said. You think they bought it? Every word. You had me convinced, and I knew it was coming. I smiled. Good. We stood there for a moment, breathing in the salt air. The rain clouds were clearing, sunlight broke through, painting gold across the water. You know they'll never come back, Margaret said. I know. Austin will hold a grudge. Let him. It might damage your relationship permanently. I turned to look at her. You think what we had before was a relationship? Him calling when he needs something, treating us like backup resources? That's not a relationship, Margaret. That's a transaction, and I'm done with it. She studied my face. No regrets? Not a single one. We went back inside. The house felt different now. Lighter. Like a weight had been lifted from the walls themselves. I walked through the rooms, deactivating systems, removing fishing line, disconnecting servos, uninstalling speakers. Leave some of it, Margaret said, just in case we need it again. You think we will? You never know. Maybe Austin has friends who need a place to stay. We both laughed at that. By noon, the house was clean. The traps were dormant. The only evidence of what had happened was in our phones. The control apps, the recordings, the documented proof of every manipulation. Should we delete those? Margaret asked. No, keep them. Insurance. Against what? Against whatever comes next. We spent the afternoon reclaiming our space, put everything back the way we liked it, opened all the curtains, let the sunlight flood in. That evening, we sat on the porch with wine and watched the sunset. The sky turned orange, then pink, then deep purple. Was it worth it? Margaret asked. Every minute. You don't feel guilty? For what? Teaching them a lesson about respect, about boundaries? No, I don't feel guilty at all. What if Austin never speaks to you again? Then he never speaks to me again. I raised him. I supported him. I gave him everything I could. If he can't handle being told no, if he can't respect that I have a life too, then maybe we don't have as much to say to each other as I thought. She leaned her head on my shoulder. You're a hard man, Henry Callahan. I'm a tired man who's done being taken advantage of. Fair enough. The sun dropped below the horizon. Stars began appearing, one by one. My phone buzzed. Text message from Austin. Made it to a hotel. We'll talk later. I read it. Didn't respond. Margaret saw. Going to answer him? Eventually. When I'm ready. On my terms. And when will that be? Maybe next week. Maybe next month. Maybe never. We'll see. She smiled. You're enjoying this? Damn right I am. We finished our wine. The night grew darker. The ocean sounds grew louder. Inside the house, everything was quiet, peaceful, exactly as it should be. I thought about all those years in the garage, the grease under my fingernails, the aching back, the dream of this place, this moment, this peace. And I thought about how close I'd come to losing it, how easily my son had assumed he could take it, use it, control it. Not anymore. Never again. Margaret stood, stretched. Bed? In a minute. I want to stay out here a little longer. Don't stay up too late. I won't. She kissed my forehead and went inside. I sat alone on the porch, listening to the waves, feeling the night air on my skin, tasting the salt. This was mine, this peace, this place, this moment. I'd worked my whole life for it. I'd planned for it, saved for it, dreamed of it. And when someone tried to take it away, I'd fought for it. With cleverness, with strategy, with a little bit of controlled chaos. Some people might call what I did cruel, manipulative, wrong. I called it justice.